gentlemen, it is an utmost honor and privilege to introduce the very first keynote speaker for Kerala Innovation Festival 2025, Mr. Anand Sri Ganesh is the CEO of NSRCEL, the Incubation and Entrepreneurship Center at IIM Bangalore, and one of India's most influential startup hubs. With over 2 decades of leadership experience across global corporations such as PepsiCo, HP, and Bridge I2I, Mr. Anand now leads one of the most diverse and impactful startup ecosystems in the country. Under his leadership, NSRCEL has scaled its national footprint, nurturing over 1,300 startups. I think that deserves a nice round of applause. Annually across sectors such as climate tech, mobility, deep tech, fintech, and social impact, his vision has transformed NSRCEL into a launchpad for purpose-driven founders from across 25 Indian states with a strong focus on inclusion, innovation, and sustainability. So with a nice round of applause, let us welcome Mr. Anand Sri Ganesh, the CEO of NSRCEL.
Thanks, Anita. Very kind of you. Morning, thank you for having me. Thank you for thinking of us. Thank you for thinking of NSRCEL. We are IIM Bangalore's Center for Entrepreneurship and Startup Incubator. And for us, the gender lens to entrepreneurship is a very critical part of what we do. But let me start with maybe a few stories. One of the things we do at NSRCEL is a separate track for what we call campus founders, student entrepreneurs, innovation from universities. This is a story about 3-4 years ago. 3 MTech students came out of their college, started a venture in the semiconductor space, chip design, VLSI design. And one of the founders, the CTO of the company, was a lady, was a woman. So they ran the company for 2 years, and after 2 years, the parents of the lady said, time to get married, and she got married. As with all nice things, after marriage, she quit the company. Now, she is the CTO of the company. The CTO left, the company had to wind down. Not the nicest story for a Friday morning. So there are other brighter stories. There's Dr. Divyashree. She's a PhD in structural biology from IISc. Structural biology basically means I don't know what it is. Her venture, Apratima Biosolutions, works on enzymes that can dissolve and convert plastic and plastic waste to its fundamental building blocks. And those fundamental building blocks can be then used to regenerate completely fresh new polymers. So it can completely recycle any form of plastic. Then there's Vaishali Sharma. She operates out of Bhubaneswar in Odisha. You may have heard of Young Tinker Foundation and Anil Pradhan, her co-founder. Young Tinker and Vaishali work with about 2.7 lakh students in rural villages in about 8 states in the country. And they take mobile tinkering labs to help rural children, 6 to 12 standard, understand and appreciate STEM education better. You may have heard of Young Tinker Foundation as the germ behind the top 3 winning teams for the NASA rover challenge earlier this year. These are women entrepreneurs. And earlier today, I had the absolute honor of meeting Dr. Anita of the Anita B Foundation. And I just got lucky and serendipitous to be sitting beside Shruti of Wingman. And I just realized how inadequate I am to be talking to you about inclusivity in entrepreneurship. What do I know? So then it is my job to stand in front of you as a man for a room full of innovators and entrepreneurs, asking you to go out there and build great big companies. It's possibly the only thing I can do. But I'd like to tell you why that is important. As Minnie ma'am told us earlier, the gender lens had some societal importance, has some developmental importance. Mamta told us that 46% of DPIIT ventures have a woman director on the board. The NSR cell estimate is that of that number, 18% are woman-led founders. You could be a signatory on the board, but if you need to be an operating manager, that's 18% of that number. This is important not because we need affirmative action or because it is societally important or we need inclusivity, we need to overcome biases. I'm sure all of that is important. I have no doubt that all of that is important. That is not the burning platform. What is the burning platform? We as a country, and just if you step out for a few seconds, we're a $2,900 per capita country. We are a lower middle income country. To give you a mental benchmark, US is about 71,000, Bangladesh is about 4,500, China is about 19,000. It gives you a mental benchmark. We aspire to be an 18,000 per capita country by 2047. Who knows? But if you have to hit anywhere in the number there, you need four things to come together. You need some capital formation, whether that's from government or private sector. You need labor and talent, and Minnie ma'am talked about the value of labor and talent. You need technology infusion. And you need entrepreneurship to bring that together. Now, if half of our innovation population is not coming to the party, we have little hope of doing anything of meaningful difference. That needle won't change because half the innovation population of our country, the women entrepreneurs in this room, are simply not yet there. That is the transformation that we need. What are we trying to do at NSR Cell towards this? There are multiple ways one can wrestle with this. We've got one operating model. I'll share a little bit about it, and we'll see where that lands. Women entrepreneurship, we run two tracks to the gender lens. There is an early stage entrepreneurship track that we call the Women Startup Program. There is a growth stage track, the scale-up track, which also has a Women in Tech Accelerator. Taken together, annually, we incubate about 450 women-led ventures every year. That's been our track record for about the past 3-4 years now. And Anita ma'am, within that are two trans-led ventures. Very, very tough problems. One working in primary healthcare for transgenders, the other working in skilling and employability for white-collared transgenders. Very, very back-breakingly tough problems. This is 2 of the 11 incubation tracks we run. Across the 11 tracks, there are 5 things we do to enable an entrepreneur. The first is market and customer validation. The second is product and business roadmap. The third is operational readiness, which is people, process, technology, resources, partnership, capital infusion to enable growth and scale. Governance, regulatory, and entrepreneurial mindset. So now that's something that happens across the tracks and happens across the 2 tracks that we have for that focus on the gender lens to entrepreneurship. There's 3 specific contextual dimensions that we embed within what we do. The first is the question of identity. The second is enabling ecosystems and enabling networks. And the third is the power of community. Let me give you a sense of what each of these 3 might mean. The question of identity, in our experience, is a little paramount to the problem. And again, I will rephrase what Minnie ma'am was telling us. A woman entrepreneur is an innovator, is also a pillar of the family, is a pillar of the community, is the pillar of the society. And the question of identity often becomes the question of choices and compromises. What does one take and what does one give away? The conversation is one of or and not one of and. And that is something we fight against or fight with. How can we make that a conversation of multiplier, which is a woman entrepreneur is a brilliant entrepreneur, because she's a pillar of the family, the pillar of the community, and pillar of the society, and not the other way around. This question of identity hits the founder on the journey at two important nodes. The first is at the startup, and the second is at the growth scale-up stage. Let me unpack that a bit. At startup, there is a starting problem. Right? There is an ignition problem, which is the woman founder intuitively, if not structurally, starts grappling with, do I, should I, could I, would I? And that question of doubt often holds back stepping into an entrepreneurial journey. We try to fight with this at NSR Cell in a couple of different ways. The first is we've created a digital platform that we call the Foundations of Entrepreneurship. It's a 16-hour spread over ideally 4 to 6 weeks, completely digital module that we've open sourced out, focused on women entrepreneurs that makes an aspirant woman entrepreneur, someone who's aspiring to a career as an entrepreneur, to just get comfortable with the idea of starting up, just get comfortable with the idea of becoming the CEO of a venture, and just get comfortable in that skin. The second is just storytelling. I think one of the things we've learned the hard way is the more there is creation of identity through association, the more there is an opportunity to accelerate. Which is to say, if you go to the NSR Cell Insta page, Insta channel, you'll see a whole set of stories that we tell about women entrepreneurs, among other things. And the idea is, if you see someone there, if you look at Jayanti there and say, she has set up a consumer brand, which is pan-country, working with farmers in Uttarakhand, that looks like me. I think I can do that. That association creates an opportunity to overcome the first cusp. The second question of identity comes at growth stage, which is you've reached some stage of revenue sustenance. You're probably in the 5 crore, 10 crore, maybe a few $1 million range. Operations are stable, your team is stable, your product market fit is somewhat robust. You've got a car, you've got a house, you've paid off all your debts, hopefully. And this is now an important choice point because you've reached from 1 to 10. 10 to 100 is a completely different game. It requires a different transformation for the founder. It requires a very different journey for the venture. And very often we've seen women entrepreneurs, I say this in a very uncharitable manner, my apologies, reconcile. This is fine. We've reached where we've reached. This is a nice place, and this is fine. We've achieved what we wanted to achieve. We've demonstrated to ourselves that we can cross the cusp. And we're good here. For us at NSR Cell, this is a massive economic loss because that entire 10 to 100 opportunity we've lost. And we want to fight with this. We want to fight to make sure that every founder who reaches 10 crores hits 100. Everyone who hits 100 hits 1,000. It's not an easy journey. And we try hard, very, very hard to wrestle with this by injecting mentors and by injecting a lot of peer learning. The finest way to create growth mindset is to recognize that you're among peers, is to recognize that you're among peers who also traverse that journey to a 10 to 100 to 1,000. And that mentorship and that peer learning often breaks that barrier to scale and that growth mindset. The second element I talked about was enabling networks. I think earlier they talked about the credit guarantee scheme. There is a Mudra scheme. A few years back, there was a Bharat Mahila Bank. There are VCs that have a very strong, okay, I'll take that back, a reasonably strong gender lens to their investment thesis. There is very interesting enabling networks. What we try to do to top that up, to create a multiplier effect, is to create this entrepreneurial journey in our incubation to be as less frictionful as possible. Which means outside of everything else that one would do within incubation, which is partners, investors, industry connects, mentorship, education, We try to bring in networks that are very peculiarly embedded to the growth journey of a woman entrepreneur. One of the things we kicked off last year was something that we call Finance for Growth, which is specifically focused on women entrepreneurs hitting a scale stage, their ability to understand and appreciate the value of capital infusion in their growth journeys, which means the education of multiple sources of capital, the readiness of the organization to even acquire and work through capital infusion, and then the right networks to raise funds, whether this is dilutive or non-dilutive capital. And that Finance for Growth, we touched about 400 ventures last year across the country in the growth stage that could access capital through the program. And at the end of it, about 45 were actually able to raise some kind of institutional investment through the program. And that for us is one way in which we create very dedicated acceleration networks for the woman entrepreneurship journey. The third is the power of community. And this we learned the hard way. Outside of everything I have said, the largest force multiplier to a woman entrepreneur's journey is the power of that community, is the power of that safe space where you can exchange thoughts, you can create safe spaces, you can find ways to partner, to collaborate, and the way it translates. So we have a fairly exhaustive digital alumnus channel. We have city meetups across the country, across 12 cities in the country, where we bring entrepreneurs together, including Kochi, and KSUM is a very powerful partner of ours in creating that enabling network. We've got a buddy program that allows veteran, seasoned entrepreneurs to buddy up and pair up with young, aspiring entrepreneurs to help them on the journey. All of that taken together creates this power of the community, which essentially translates to, I'm opening up an office in Delhi. Can I share office space with someone? I am hiring a VP of sales for my US operations. Can someone interview on my behalf? I'm meeting an investor next week. Can someone give me a ref check? That is where the power of the community translates and comes alive. So our ability to bring in that peer network to the community creates that multiplier effect. Across all of this, what has it translated to? And I'll go back to the numbers where we started. Generally speaking, they say in the entrepreneurship community, the mortality rate is about 70%. Especially if you're tech venture, 70% of tech ventures would not last a 3 to 5 year journey. It's the nature of the sector. It's the nature of risk-driven entrepreneurship. For our women entrepreneurship tracks, and what we track is founder survival, which is, has the founder stayed the entrepreneurship course for at least 3 years? The venture would go through its sinusoidal journey, but if the founder stays the course for at least 3 years, we have reasonable belief that the founder is now a career entrepreneur, which means we have injected that entrepreneurial dynamism into our economic ecosystem. At NSR Cell, the founder survival rate is 79.25%. So I'd like to believe something good we are doing. I hope so. That makes the real material difference to what we aspire to, which is inject and create sustenance and survival paths for women entrepreneurs that we're able to incubate. But the beauty comes alive in the stories. The statistics are, of course, interesting. The beauty comes alive in the stories. It's the story of, I don't think the boys in this room will understand what I'm going to say, but most of the girls would know the Paradise brand. I hope so. Right? One of the fastest growing hair care brands in the country, Yash Jolly, who runs Paradise, semi-permanent organic hair dyes, and the fastest growing consumer brand in the country. It's a woman entrepreneur. Anjali Rose, who works in Gujarat, works on regenerative agriculture and carbon sequestering to solve for the stubble burning of cotton crops in Gujarat with the farmers there. Durga Das, some of the sports enthusiasts, and now this is cricket season, may recognize the name. She was the captain of the US cricket team a few years back. Now a social entrepreneur, runs a company called Aero Nero that captures atmospheric humidity to potable industry-grade drinking water. These are women entrepreneurs. And then we have my alumni. We have Vandana, we have Nikita. Both of them shook hands with me earlier this morning and made me seriously embarrassed. And that's the real story, and that's the power of injecting the entrepreneurial energy from a gender lens to our economy. So I've got 1:58. To end, what is it that I ask you? Because they've given me a mic and a stage. What is it that I ask you? What I ask is that for us collectively to achieve two things. One is the top of the funnel. Can we, I talked about that 18% number, etc. Can we get much, much more, 10x of that number of entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs, to enter the economic innovation ecosystem? And the only way that can be done is through the kind of work we do with KSUM. NSR Cell works with similarly the 13 other institutions across the country, 14 partners in our gender lens to entrepreneurship. And we've got to create that network multiplier effect to get more and more safe spaces to create great women entrepreneurs. And that great women entrepreneurship is the second ask. Through whatever we do, through the ecosystem we develop, through the policies we design, to the networks we create, to the communities that we build, can we at least create 100,000 crore companies in the next 5 years? 100,000 crore companies is approximately 10 unicorns, not by valuation, by value, by revenue. That's the real fun. Valuation is good for health, but it's when you get 1,000 crores of revenue that you're making a meaningful difference to the economy, the society, the markets that you're operating in. And can we create at least 100,000 crore companies in the next 5 years, all of them women-led? I have no doubt that we will. And given the conversation I've had since the morning today and the energy in this room that we've seen in the last hour, I have absolutely no doubt that we will. I wish us all the best in the journey. Thank you so much.
Sir, before you go, we would like to give a token of appreciation, a token of gratitude for all the wonderful information that you have shared as a part of an NSR Cell is how you call it. I was saying NSRCEL. I think that's the easier way, NSR Cell. So I would like to invite Mr. Suresh Krishna, the co-founder and CEO of Yunus Foundation, to kindly come forward and hand over a token of gratitude to Mr. Anand over here, who has kick-started the Kerala Innovation Festival with his very first keynote address. I think you can go to the center stage so that we get a really nice photo, Insta-worthy photo. Thank you so much, Mr. Anand Sri Ganesh.